gentlemen, welcome to the Mission Employable podcast. My name is Ben Oldach. With me today, Kathy Leggett. Kathy, we are podcasting from an exercise room.
Yes.
In the Lamar's fire department.
Yes.
First time for that on this episode.
Yes.
Or on this podcast. You're sitting on a treadmill right
Yep.
now. I know audio medium, you guys can't see it, but it's pretty awesome. Now, my voice is still not great, so I'm, again, going to kind of limit myself a little bit on this episode. Kathy's going to do the heavy lifting. The allergies have not let up, and my voice does not sound ideal. But what is ideal is our guest today. We have Dr. Mark Iverson, the principal at Lamar's Community High School. He's going to be talking about this really, really cool program that they're running there. It's basically this like work-based learning program with the fire department here in town, to get students some like real world experience in their EMT program. And he's going to tell us all about that. So Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And my excitement continues that we're on the road with the podcast. And so I'm loving it. So first, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Mark, and your background, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Lamar's Community High School.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back a little bit further in my background than I typically would, just because that kind of helps explain why the EMT program. I grew up in South Dakota, in Vermilion, and when I was in college, I got in the fire department there in Vermilion. And then I also, when I graduated college, I was teaching in Vermilion. And so I just stayed on the fire department. So I have 10 years on the fire department. In South Dakota, I was a trainer for the fire marshal's office. So I taught the firefighter 1 class, the driver operator, that type of stuff for the fire department. And so that kind of gets us to where I came to Lamar's in 2005 as the assistant principal. And then I became principal. And in 2018, this is where the EMT program kind of came up, where Bill Rosacker, the previous director of the EMT department, came and asked about a potential class. And the need came from, we didn't have as many people volunteering. And so to help kind of build that pipeline to get volunteers to go and become EMTs.
And so here we are.
And here we are today.
After 2018, that's what, 5-6 years or 7? How many years?
7 years ago.
Yeah, yes. 7 years ago. So number one, great way to be able to use your previous experience, right? And implement something really cool here. Tell us just a little bit about the Lamar's Community High School too. How big is it?
So at Lamar's High School, we're a 3A school here in Iowa. We have roughly 650 kids in our high school. We have a full gambit of the different career tech education classes. We have the college prep classes, very similar to all the other high schools in Iowa. Being in the ice cream capital of the world, we have we have Wells here, and so we have the pipeline trying to get with them, and it's just an exciting time in Lamar's with the different connections we're building with other work-based learning opportunities for all of our kids. So
and one of our goals is always to better connect education in the workforce, and this is a great example of that. And we've got to watch the class here this morning that's being taught, and talk to some of the students and learn really what their career paths are and how this is influencing their career path. So can you just lay out the program for a little bit for us? It's a semester, I think, but just kind of lay out the structure for others.
So this is a semester class. In order to get the number of hours they need to teach everything, we do start this early. So our kids start class at 7 a.m. and they go through their first period class. So they're typically done at 9:15 on normal days. Today when he came observed, it was our in-service day, so it's an early out day for us. So they cut short a little bit, but they're there for 2 hours, 15 minutes in class to get what they need. They get the lecture part, a lot of hands-on training, so it's a great way for them to sit in the classroom, they learn, and then go right into the apparatus bay, and then they practice what they learned. When we first started this class, it was at the high school. And so then Bill Rosacker, the MT director, had to bring the equipment into the high school and that type of stuff. And then once in a while, they would meet at the fire department and go through the ambulance and that type of stuff. And then when the fire department took over the class after Bill retired, we started meeting down here at the fire department. It's been much better because now you don't have the hassle of bringing stuff to the school, taking a rig totally out of operation because they're taking stuff off of a rig and that type of stuff. So here they keep a rig in operation and they can hurry up and get stuff back on if they have to respond with that unit. So
so full semester, and then the students can take the licensing exam.
Yep. Yep. So at the end of the class, the students have the option to take the license exam. That cost, unfortunately, bears onto them because the school, we obviously don't pay that since it's not required part of the class. So that is kind of one of the barriers to this
Mm-hmm.
program is,
Mm-hmm.
trying to find, funding to help some of those kids that may not be able to afford I think it's $300 to take the exam.
Yep.
And so it is a nice chunk of change you have to come up with, especially towards the end of the school year if you're a senior, because they're trying to save for other things. But yeah, that's probably the biggest barrier we have to come up with is those kids that want to take the test. How do we get it so they can take the test?
Yeah. So an opportunity for any funders out there
Right.
interested in supporting this. And speaking of barriers, like what were other initial barriers, if you recall that, or challenges that presented when you were trying to get this started? Like how has it smoothly worked to work it like into the schedule? I know it's like the morning, but how do they
Right.
compensate? How does all that
Right.
work on the school district side?
It's like one of the barriers we have, when you're creating a master schedule, you're trying to get classes that kids want and that type of stuff. And this class was kind of pigeonholed where it had to be in the morning because that was the time that I was told that they could teach it. The downside of that is any kid in band, because the band is always the first hour, and that's kind of one of those sacred, classes you just can't move because they have the before school practice time too they need. And so that is one of the issues we have is those kids that want to be in band and do this, they have that conflict where eventually they're going to have to make a choice for a semester. Do I leave band for a semester and come do this, or do I wait till I graduate high school and come do this?
As a former drumline captain, that hits near and dear to my
Yes.
heart. Stay with band. No,
They're both great. My wife's a music
Yes.
teacher too, so I mean I understand the decisions those kids have to make, and so I know we try to work with those kids as much as we can too. So yeah.
Yeah. So the flexibility is I'm sure much appreciated, but yeah,
Right.
that's definitely now currently the fire chief here is teaching the class. And has that always been the case?
So when the fire department took it over, yeah, Mike Wise, who was before John, he taught the class, and then Mike just recently retired, and so John took over full time here this semester. He co-taught with Mike last
Okay.
year and that stuff, so he's been teaching it too. But now John has it by himself, and John does an awesome job with the class. He has a great personality and relates well with the kids. He has a wealth of personal experience, from his years on the fire department and what he's seen, and how you. I think that's a part of the class those instructors bring into it because they've seen it. They've been to the accidents. They've had the different cases where they've responded and they've can relate that to the kids. Hey, not everything is textbook. Everything's, you get the theory and you get the textbook, and then you get real world.
Mhm.
And real world's totally different than theory and textbook. And
Yeah.
so these kids get the benefit of both experiences.
Yeah, and that's such an important piece of it too, because when you, as someone who's like, taken, I was a reporter for many years, and we would go in class and we'd learn the textbook way to, ask questions or like find sources or things like that. But so much of the learning happens on the job when it doesn't go perfect, and
Right.
you need to kind of improvise a little
Right.
bit. And Kathy almost fell into
Yeah.
the
I don't
treadmill
want to
here.
break the treadmill.
But yeah, well, when things don't go perfect, or you need to improvise, and that kind of experience, and being able to tell students, hey, this is what we're supposed to do when everything goes right. But I've been in X, Y, and Z,
Mhm.
and sometimes you have to do this.
Right.
And I think that's like very crucial to have in an instructor who can kind of guide students through that so that they can keep that top of mind.
Yep, I agree 100%. That makes the class that much better when you have
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. So, how does it work? Can you explain again, maybe from the school district point of view, how does it work for John to be able to teach the class? Like,
Right.
is that, I think the community college has a role, but can you talk
Mhm.
to us about
Yep.
that for other schools who might be interested?
Yep. So we do partner with Western Iowa Tech, and then to get the instructor cleared, obviously we have to go through Western Iowa Tech's procedures. So there's some paperwork John had to fill out, send to Western Iowa Tech, get them cleared to teach the class. From our aspect, so we pay WIT the per class fee and the per student fee. For a class typically like this, where John is considered a Western Iowa Tech adjunct,
Okay.
and so typically they would bill us those hours for the adjunct too. And so typically we pay for the instructor, like our welding classes are that way. So WIT bills us for a welding instructor comes up. The fire department is saying John doesn't need to be paid for this class. And so they're saving the district the money. So we don't have to pay John. So we're just paying the course fee, which is like $900. and then another, I believe it's $80 per kid that takes the class and that type of stuff. So, and we have an agreement with Hinton this year. So it's our first year we had Hinton students coming up with us. So that's great.
Mhm.
We also get Galen kids that come over here too with us. So this year we have no Galen kids. Next year we've already done our registration. And so just our Lamar's community numbers, we have 18 kids signed up for the class for next year.
That's great.
So I'll be curious when we get Galen's request and Hinton, see if they have any other kids they want to sign up for too. So, I mean, we have, going from 6 kids this year to potentially maybe 20 some kids next year,
Yes.
that's outstanding.
Speaking of enrollment, whenever we launch a new program at IWD, or if we have some cool new, event or something like that, one of the biggest hurdles is just awareness, getting people to come out and interest in joining or taking advantage of a program. How do you kind of spread the word and get people to know that this is available,
right,
and it's ready for them to join?
Yep. So our counselors, they do a lot of registration talks with all of our classes. So they go into our English classes when we're doing our getting it ready for registration talks, and then they present and talk about the different career pathways. The biggest sellers are the kids in the class when they come back and talk about what they've learned, or even our graduates. Jacob Manley, you talked with him earlier. He's a great kid at school, and his mom is an aide at the high school and that type of stuff. And so, just him be able to talk to kids, because he still has that connection to school with his mom being there and that type of stuff, and just them seeing the local stuff taking place. I think we have a great fire department where we have a lot of the guys on department have kids either at community or at Galen, and so you have the families that grow up in it. And then just getting exposed to those other kids that didn't grow up in it. I didn't grow up in the fire service. My dad wasn't a firefighter. We farmed. And so that's just what we didn't do. But I knew people that had dads that were in fire service, and that's kind of what I liked in that type of stuff. And that's why I gave it a try, so it's just kind of seeing it, knowing people have been involved in it, and then making other kids aware of it. Like when we first started it, we decided late in the school year. We'd already done registrations. Like Jake was saying, we were doing announcements to get kids, make kids aware of the new class that we're having, that type of stuff. And then, getting kids to sign up that way too. So
How long did it take you when you decided to do this? Like, it sounds like you did it. Was it a quick process just for others thinking about it?
It didn't take me long. I mean,
Okay.
he didn't have to convince me to do this, because
yeah.
I was already bought in once he said, "Hey, I like to do this." Okay,
Yes.
how do we make it work?
Yeah.
And so, the is working through Western Iowa Tech.
Yep.
All right. So how does this work? What classes do we use? How do we get our instructors certified? How's this all going to work?
Mm-hmm.
And so they were very great to work with. They went really quick for us and got us what we needed. Got Bill cleared to teach the class. I think Bill might have already been teaching adjunct classes down at Wood anyway at that time, so it wasn't that hard to get him cleared. Then it's just having our section up here. When we first started the class, the textbook cost, the city bought all those books. So there was a grant the city runs, and Bill applied for that grant. And so that's how we bought all of our textbooks the first time around, was through that grant. And now the school purchased those textbooks now.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So do you have an idea of, like, per class or per student, what the cost is?
For textbooks, it's like $200 per kid.
Okay.
Just for the textbooks. And then, you have I think WIT charges a $900 for per section fee. And then it's like an $80 per student fee on that type. But with our school funding formula, when you have the concurrent enrollment classes, if you're not using it for your offer and teach requirements, you can get supplemental weighting for that.
Okay.
And so you do get additional weighting for having these college classes that help mix up some of that cost.
Okay.
So it doesn't cost us that much per kid to offer these classes, because there is other funding formulas.
So the benefits for students who want to become EMTs or like have it in their head that they want to join the fire department already are pretty obvious. You get to do it in high school and go to class.
Yep.
But we talked to a few people out there who weren't necessarily on that like EMT track.
Yep.
And so like, what are the benefits for students who might not necessarily see themselves working in a fire station taking this class?
I see the bulk of our students are that way. I know most of our kids aren't thinking I'm going to go be a firefighter or EMT. They're thinking I want to be a nurse or I want to be a doctor. This is a great way to get some of that early training, get some early experience before you get into med school. You're seeing a lot of trauma, and you're going to know right away if you have it cut out to handle that stuff. So it does help those kids decide, is that truly the pathway I want to go or not? it may spark different interests. As you talk to Jacob, he had the idea I was going to be a doctor, and all of a sudden this changed his mind that, hey, no, I want to be a firefighter EMT. I think they get bit by that bug, and just that whole, it's a way to serve your community. It's a way to help people. I think that's something that you get above and beyond a paycheck, and not all careers offer that type of thing. So
Yeah, no, that's true. And also, it seems like even for students who that's not their final path,
mhm.
there's like the volunteerism, the serving your community, the just the showing up. You're here from 7 to 9:15 every morning. All those experiences will do nothing but benefit you
Right.
in your next, whatever comes next in your life.
Right.
So
And we're lucky in Lamar's where we do have some paid firefighters, so we're not totally volunteer dependent. But I know the fire department I was on, our only paid firefighter was the chief. The rest of us were all volunteers. And so if you don't have those people willing to step up, this is a service that all communities need. Rather EMS or fire, someone has to show up when you need the help.
Mhm.
And so this just shows those kids what it takes to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it opens their eyes to opportunities, because they may go in a totally different profession and live in a smaller community where they need those volunteers.
Mhm.
And so they have that training, they have that experience, and so they can help up and step up in that community. It's just a way to give back. So
It's great opportunity. So, next question I have is just, would you encourage other school districts to consider offering a program like this? We know some in Iowa do, but what would your thoughts on that be?
yeah, I think it's something that all schools should look at. I mean, especially because all towns have that need. Unless you're a big city, where you have the paid department, all of us have the need for volunteers, and so you're just creating that natural pipeline into your community, because you're going to have some kids that are going to stay there and go right to work, and this is a great chance for them to help out with their community, to give back to the community. It's a way, like I've allowed our kids that live in Merrill, which is a smaller town south of Lamar's here. They're in the fire department. They carry their pagers in school. I let them respond when the pager goes off in school and that type of stuff. I know the importance of helping the community and that type of stuff. And so this is just a way for them to help the community out. It's a way for the schools to help the community out, because we're all one big partner. So we want to have our communities thrive and that stuff. And so we don't want to see an EMS service die, or where they're depending on a larger community to come and service their smaller communities. So this is just a way to help give back to that.
Yeah, that is so great. What initial steps would you suggest other school districts maybe take if they're thinking, okay, now I want to investigate this? What would you suggest?
I'd reach out to your fire department and see if they have someone that could teach the class, or know someone that could teach the class. If they have that commitment, then just kind of see what they would be willing to do with you and that type of stuff, and then contact your community college and see how we can get this all tied together. The fire service is a little bit different, because you just have to go to the state fire marshal's office to get the class certified. That's something we're hoping to add here real soon, is the firefighter 1 class.
Awesome.
And so we have firefighter 1 class go with the EMT class, and so we're just trying to figure out how we're going to make this all work. So but I'm really excited to get that one going too. So
that is very exciting. And from the we were able to talk to several of the students this morning, and it's awesome, because some of them are, as you mentioned, already volunteering with their local volunteer fire services, and then several of them, their next step is to go into the workforce and to go into the fire departments, the EMS paramedic services, which is the goal. So they're really getting a head start on that.
Yes, and that's what we want to see.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
that's
great.
awesome.
Anything else you'd like to tell us about this program? Or
It's something that I really believe deeply in. I think it's something that, like I said earlier, all schools should be able to, do something like this. When you look at the cost, I mean, the cost isn't that great when you compare to what we get funding wise and that stuff, as long as you're not using it to your offer and teach. Yeah, if anyone has questions, they can feel free to reach out to me.
Wonderful.
I'd be willing to help them walk through anything I could. So
What's the best way to reach out to you?
you can call me at the school, 712-546-4153, or my email is mark.iverson, mark.iverson @lamarscsd.org.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mark. This from the first minute I heard about this program, I just found it so impressive and such a great opportunity. Again, linking workforce with education. It's a win for everybody. So really job well done. And thanks so much for joining us today, for sharing all your knowledge with us and being willing to do that with others.
Thanks for having me.